The first time my husband asked me to lie for him, we were standing in line for drinks at a rooftop charity mixer downtown. Austin in early fall. Warm, loud, everyone pretending they weren't networking while doing exactly that. I remember because Bryn was at home with my sister, and Silas had insisted I come. Said it would look good. Said people expected to see me. He leaned in like he was about to kiss my cheek and whispered, "If anyone asks, just say I've been traveling alone this year. Work stuff. Keep it simple." I laughed, because that's what you do when something doesn't make sense yet. "Traveling alone?" I said. "Why would anyone ask that?" He didn't answer. He just straightened his jacket and flagged the bartender. That was the moment. The tiny hitch in his breath. The way he wouldn't meet my eyes. A woman stepped up beside us. Mid-30s, confident posture, hair too perfect for Texas humidity. She smiled at Silas like she knew him well. Too well. "Sil," she said, like it belonged to her, "I didn't know you were coming tonight." His face changed. Not panic, calculation. "Last-minute thing," he said. "You know how it is." She turned to me, still smiling. "And you must be?" I waited. So did she. Silas didn't fill the silence. "I'm Arden," I said. "His wife." The word hung there. Wife. Clean. Accurate. Her smile didn't disappear. It tightened. "Oh," she said softly. "That's strange." Silas cleared his throat. "Arden—" "No," she interrupted, eyes still locked on his. "What's strange is that Silas told me his wife passed away 3 years ago. The music didn't stop. People didn't turn. But something inside my chest did. A hard, grinding shift, like a door slamming shut. "I think you're confused," I said, even as my pulse started climbing my throat. She tilted her head. "I don't think I am. We filed jointly last year. We own a condo in Bellevue. I met his parents. I've hosted his colleagues for holidays." I looked at Silas. He was staring at the floor like it might open up and take him. "You asked me to lie," I said slowly. "This is why." A couple standing behind us went quiet. Someone nearby stopped laughing mid-sentence. The room hadn't noticed yet, but it was starting to. "She doesn't know," the woman said. Not to me, to him. "Does she?" I felt heat crawl up my neck. "Know what?" She reached into her clutch and pulled out her phone. Scrolled, turned the screen toward me. There he was, my husband, in another kitchen, another life. His arm around her waist, a caption underneath, "Grateful for my wife. Always." I didn't cry. I didn't raise my voice. My hands went cold. "How long?" I asked him. He opened his mouth, closed it, tried again. "Arden, this isn't—" "How long?" I repeated, louder this time. 4 years, the woman said. "That's when we married. 4 years." Bryn was 7. Someone behind me whispered, "Oh my God." Silas finally looked at me. His eyes were pleading now. "Not sorry, afraid. Please," he said. "Not here." I smiled. Not because I felt kind, because something in me had gone razor sharp. "You brought me here," I said. "You asked me to lie here. You don't get to choose where this ends." He reached for my arm. I stepped back. "I have a daughter," I said. "Did you give her a death story too? Or did you just erase us quietly?" The woman looked sick now. Not angry. Betrayed in her own way. "You told me you were alone," she said. "You said there was no one else." He didn't answer her. He was watching me, calculating again, like maybe there was still a version of this he could manage. I turned to her. "I didn't know about you, but I will now." Her jaw tightened. "I believe you." That was it. No screaming match, no scene he could twist later. Just truth, sitting in the open. I reached for my purse. "Arden," he said urgently, "we can talk. Please, let's just go somewhere private." I looked around. Faces everywhere now. People pretending not to listen while listening to everything. "This was private," I said. "You made it public." I stepped away from him. From both of them. Toward the exit. Behind me, I heard him say my name again. Louder. Desperate. I didn't turn around. In the elevator down, my reflection stared back at me like a stranger. Eyes steady, mouth calm, heart pounding like it wanted out. I pressed my palm against my ribs and breathed through it. By the time I hit the sidewalk, my phone was already buzzing. Missed calls, messages, excuses warming up. I didn't answer a single one. I drove home slow, thought about Bryn asleep in her room, about the life I thought I was protecting by being flexible, trusting, quiet. I parked, sat there with the engine off. He didn't just cheat. He built another life and asked me to help hide it. That was when I understood something clearly. Finally. I wasn't going to confront him again. I was going to dismantle him. And I was just getting started. Silas and I didn't start as a cautionary tale. That's the part people never want to hear, but it matters. We met in our late 20s, when ambition still felt like a shared language instead of a competition. He was polished, persuasive, the kind of man who could walk into a room and make people assume he belonged there. I was steadier, less visible, the one who made things hold. We married fast, but not recklessly. At least that's what I told myself. 2 years of dating, a courthouse wedding, a modest reception because we agreed we'd rather invest in our future than perform it. I used a small inheritance from my grandmother for the down payment on our first house. It was my idea. I wanted us secure. I wanted roots. Silas promised we'd always be a team. When Bryn was born, everything narrowed. Sleep schedules, daycare costs, long work days. I scaled back my consulting work because his career was taking off, and someone needed to be present. That someone was always me. I told myself it was temporary. I told myself marriage meant adjusting. There were signs. I see them now in brutal clarity. The sudden insistence on separate credit cards for business travel. The way he took calls outside, even when it was late. How he started using vague language about trips. The Northwest. Up there. Never naming cities. I asked once why his parents never visited anymore. He said they were busy, complicated. I didn't push. I trusted the man who sat at our dinner table and helped Bryn with her math homework. I trusted the father who packed her lunches and kissed her forehead before leaving for the airport. The lie worked because it was built on routine. Financially, everything ran through us. Or so I believed. The house was in both our names, but the initial equity was mine. My inheritance paid for that foundation. Our savings grew slowly, carefully. I tracked expenses. I planned. He joked that I was the responsible one. I didn't realize that meant he felt entitled to disappear. I remember the first time I felt something shift. Bryn was 9. Silas came home with a gift I hadn't seen before. A bracelet. Clearly not my style. He said it was a client thank you that he'd forgotten to mention. I told myself not to be suspicious. I didn't want to become that person, the one who checked pockets and searched phones. So I stayed someone he could rely on, someone predictable. The stakes weren't just emotional. They were structural. If Silas had another life, it meant there were assets I didn't know about. Accounts, commitments, legal entanglements. It meant my daughter's stability had been built on partial truths. It meant every decision I'd made to prioritize us had been leveraged against me. The night after the rooftop, Bryn noticed immediately. "You look different," she said as I tucked her in. "Like when you get bad news at work." I sat on the edge of her bed and held her hand longer than usual. "Did your dad ever talk about another city?" I asked carefully. "Or someone else he spends time with?" She hesitated. That pause told me everything. "There's a woman," she said. "He FaceTimes her sometimes. He tells me to go to my room when she calls." My throat tightened. "What does he say about her?" "She calls him her husband," Bryn said. Simple. Factual. No drama. I thought it was a joke. I kissed her forehead and stood up before my face could give me away. Later that night, I called my closest friend, Maeve. She'd known Silas as long as I had. She'd defended him when I complained about the distance. When I asked her point blank if she'd ever seen him act like a single man on trips, she didn't hesitate. "Yes," she said. I didn't want to be wrong. That was the confirmation, not the rooftop, not the photos. The fact that the people who loved me had sensed it and stayed quiet because they didn't have proof. By morning, I wasn't in shock anymore. I was in inventory mode. What I had put in, what he had taken, what my daughter stood to lose if I hesitated. This wasn't about heartbreak. It was about extraction. He had built a second life on the assumption that I would stay passive, polite, and uninformed. That assumption was the most expensive mistake he ever made. By sunrise, I wasn't angry. Anger wastes time. I was precise. I made coffee, opened my laptop, and pulled every financial document I'd ever touched into one folder. Mortgage statements, tax returns, retirement accounts. I knew where the seams were because I'd been the one stitching things together for years. Silas liked big gestures and clean narratives. I liked documentation. The first call went to a family law attorney Maeve recommended. Not a bulldog, a surgeon. I told her exactly what I'd learned and exactly what I suspected. Parallel household, she said calmly. We move fast. We did. By noon, my personal accounts were separated. Not drained. Frozen. The joint savings account was locked pending review. I flagged irregular transfers going back years. Patterns started surfacing immediately. Small amounts. Consistent timing. Enough to build a second life without triggering alarms if you weren't looking for them. I was looking now. I listed the house. Quietly. Not for sale yet, just positioned. Valuation, comps, timelines. My inheritance percentage was documented, clean, unarguable. I packed his things next. Not emotionally, logistically. One suitcase. Clothes he wore often. Toiletries, chargers. Everything else stayed. I wasn't evicting him yet. I was redefining space. When Silas finally called, I let it ring. When he texted, I read it once. Please. We need to talk. I didn't respond. I drove Bryn to school myself. Watched her walk through the doors. Made a promise to the back of her head that she wouldn't be collateral damage. Whatever I did next would be clean enough for her to live inside. Back home, I changed the Wi-Fi password. Disabled location sharing. Removed him from shared cloud access. Every digital convenience he'd taken for granted vanished in under 10 minutes. At 2 o'clock, my attorney emailed the draft separation notice. At 2:30, I forwarded it to Silas. He called immediately. Arden, he said, breathless. What are you doing? Protecting my daughter, I said. And myself. This is insane, he said. You're acting like I committed a crime. You committed a series of decisions, I said. I'm responding to them. You're overreacting, he insisted. We can fix this. That word, we, almost made me laugh. There is no we, I said. There hasn't been for 4 years. Silence. Then panic. I could hear it now, scraping through his voice. You froze the accounts, he said. I can't access anything. Correct. I have obligations, he snapped. Bills. So do I said. Mine don't include another household. He tried a softer tone. Apologetic. Controlled. I made a mistake. No, I said. You built a system. That's when he lost control. You can't just take everything, he said. People will ask questions. They already are, I replied. He hung up. An hour later, he showed up at the house. I didn't open the door. He stood on the porch, knocking, then pounding, then calling my name like volume could change reality. I watched from the hallway, phone in hand, documenting everything. Arden, this isn't how adults handle things, he shouted. I cracked the door just enough for my voice to carry. Adults don't ask their wives to pretend they're dead, I said. Take the bag. Leave. He stared at the suitcase like it was a threat, like it wasn't enough. You're making a huge mistake, he said. No, I said evenly. You did. I'm correcting it. He picked up the bag. His hands were shaking. That was the first time I saw it hit him. Not guilt, not remorse, but fear. The realization that I wasn't negotiating. I was executing. As he walked away, His phone buzzed again. Another call he couldn't afford to miss. Another life demanding answers. I closed the door, locked it, and sat down on the stairs. Everything was in motion now. Legal, financial, social. He thought the confrontation was the event. It wasn't. It was the starting gun. The fallout didn't explode. It seeped. Quietly, relentlessly, into every corner of Silas's life. By the next morning, he discovered what frozen actually meant. Not dramatic alerts or slammed doors, just denial screens and unanswered emails. His corporate card declined at a coffee shop near the office. He texted me a screenshot like it was a glitch I could fix. I didn't reply. Instead, I met with my attorney again. We filed the temporary financial restraining order before noon. It wasn't vindictive. It was protective. It locked down assets until disclosure was complete. Every account would be traced, every obligation verified. That same afternoon, Silas's second life began to wobble. The woman from the rooftop. Her name surfaced quickly once I knew where to look. She'd posted photos, tagged locations, left a digital trail she assumed was safe because no one was comparing timelines. My attorney advised distance, no messages, no confrontation. Consequences didn't need commentary. Silas called again, then again. Voicemail after voicemail, his voice shifting from controlled to brittle. "You're humiliating me," he said in one. "You're destroying everything," he said in another. "I can't even explain this," he said in a third. That one made me pause. Explain it to whom? The answer came faster than I expected. By day 3, his parents called me. Not him. Me. They didn't accuse. They asked careful questions. Dates. Locations. The kind of questions people ask when something finally clicks and they're afraid of what it means. I told the truth. All of it. Without embellishment. There was a long silence on the line. "He told us you were difficult," his mother said quietly. "That the marriage was unstable." "I wasn't," I said. "I was uninformed." She didn't argue. The social circle followed. Invitations paused. Group chats went silent. People who'd always addressed us as a unit started reaching out separately, cautiously, like they were testing new boundaries. Silas tried to get ahead of it. He told people I was spiraling, that I'd misunderstood a professional relationship, that stress had made me impulsive. Then the documents started circulating. Not publicly, not yet, but enough. Separation filings, financial disclosures. The phrase material misrepresentation carries weight when it's attached to a real name. At work, he lost leverage. He couldn't travel. He couldn't sign. He couldn't reimburse. His image, controlled, reliable, developed cracks. The other woman stopped posting. That silence spoke louder than any statement. Bryn felt it too, though I tried to shield her. Her father missed 2 scheduled pickups. Showed up late once, distracted, on edge. She noticed. "He keeps checking his phone," she said. "Like he's scared of it." I didn't correct her. On Friday, he sent a message that wasn't about money or optics. "Please, just let me see her." I forwarded it to my attorney. By Monday, temporary custody was formalized, structured, supervised, clear. He hadn't fought it. He didn't have the footing. When he finally cornered me in the parking lot outside my office, he looked smaller, unshaven, jacket wrinkled. The man who curated appearances couldn't keep up anymore. "You didn't have to do all this," he said. "We could have handled it privately." "This is private," I said, "just not invisible." "You're ruining me," he whispered. "No," I said. "I stopped protecting you." He stared at me like he didn't recognize the person standing there. Maybe he never had. As I drove away, my phone buzzed again. This time it wasn't him. It was a number I didn't recognize. A message, short and direct. I didn't know. But I know now. We need to talk. The consequences had reached the other side of his life, and they weren't done spreading. The second confrontation didn't happen by accident. I chose the place, the timing, and the audience. Silas's parents were hosting a family anniversary dinner at a private room in a downtown restaurant. Linen tablecloths, speeches planned, relatives flying in from out of state. It was the kind of event meant to reinforce appearances, tradition, unity, the story he had been hiding behind for years. I accepted the invitation. When I walked in, conversations dipped. Not silence, just a noticeable hesitation, like everyone recalibrating. I felt it and kept moving. Calm. Upright. Bryn wasn't with me. That was intentional. This wasn't her battlefield. Silas was already there. Sitting too straight, smiling too hard. He looked up and froze. He hadn't expected me to show. His mother stood and hugged me first, held on longer than usual. That told me everything. Dinner began politely. Small talk, updates, forced laughter, silverware clinking like nothing was wrong. Halfway through the first course, Silas's phone buzzed. He checked it under the table, then again. His jaw tightened. Across the room, I saw her, the other woman. She stood just inside the doorway, scanning the room like she was looking for a lifeline. Someone had told her where he'd be. Someone had told her the truth had finally surfaced. Silas followed my gaze and went pale. She walked toward the table. "Silas," she said. Clear, steady, loud enough. Every conversation around us stopped. "What are you doing here?" he hissed. "I was invited," she said, "by your mother." All eyes turned. His mother stood slowly. I thought it was time everyone was honest. The woman turned to me. We hadn't spoken since the rooftop. Not directly. She looked different now. Stripped of confidence. Grounded by consequence. "I didn't know about you," she said to the table. "But I know now. And I won't be part of this anymore." Silas pushed his chair back. "This isn't the place." "This is exactly the place," I said. He looked at me, pleading, warning, calculating. I stood. "I won't take long," I said calmly. "But since my marriage has already been discussed in this room, without my consent, I think it's fair I finish the conversation." No one interrupted me. "For 4 years," I continued, "Silas maintained 2 lives, 2 households, 2 sets of promises. He asked me to lie so he could keep doing it. He asked her to believe I didn't exist." Gasps. Murmurs. Someone whispered his name like it might save him. "I won't argue about feelings," I said. "I won't speculate about motives. I'll stick to facts, joint filings, shared assets, overlapping timelines." I looked directly at him. "You didn't just betray me," I said. "You exploited silence." His father stood abruptly. "Is this true?" Silas opened his mouth, closed it, tried again. "It's complicated," he said weakly. "It's not," I said. "It's documented." I slid a folder onto the table. Copies. "Not everything, just enough. This isn't revenge," I said. "This is closure. For everyone in this room who was lied to." The other woman placed her keys on the table. Condo keys. Wedding ring beside them. "I'm done," she said. Effective immediately. That was the moment Silas broke. "Stop," he snapped. "You're all overreacting." His mother looked at him like she'd never seen him before. "Sit down," she said. He didn't. Instead, he turned on me. "You planned this," he accused. "You wanted to humiliate me." "No," I said evenly. "You did that yourself. I just stopped preventing it." A phone camera clicked somewhere. Then another. Someone had started recording. Silas realized it too late. "This is who you are," I said, my voice carrying now. A man who thought duplicity was sustainable because the people around him were decent. Silence. Heavy. Final. His brother stood and walked out without a word. His father followed. The room emptied around him in slow motion. Chairs scraping. Napkins dropped. Conversations resumed elsewhere, without him. Silas stood alone at the table. I picked up my purse. "As of tonight," I said, "any questions about our marriage can be directed to our attorneys. Any attempts to contact me outside that channel will be documented." He whispered my name. I leaned in close enough for only him to hear. You don't get to be misunderstood anymore. Then I walked out. By morning, the video was everywhere. Clipped, shared, captioned. The story he'd tried to control for years had finally told itself. And he was at the center of it, exposed, unprotected, and alone. Silas didn't disappear after the dinner. Men like him never do. They rebrand. By the next morning, his version of events was already circulating. Quietly at first, then with more confidence. He told colleagues the video was taken out of context. He told extended family that emotions had run high and facts had been distorted. He hinted that I was unstable, vindictive, misled by outside voices. He never denied the second life. He reframed it. It wasn't a marriage, he told one mutual contact. It was complicated. She knew, he told another. We were separated emotionally, he said, conveniently forgetting the years of shared holidays and bedtime routines. The thing about spinning a narrative is that it only works if the other person stays silent. I didn't. I waited. 3 days after the video went public, his employer placed him on administrative leave. Not because of the scandal, but because of the audit it triggered. His travel reimbursements no longer aligned with his declared locations. Expense reports didn't match timestamps. Internal compliance started asking questions that didn't care about feelings. That was when he panicked. He sent me an email, not a text, not a call. Long, carefully written, apologetic without admitting liability. I think we should issue a joint statement, he wrote. For Bryn's sake. To calm things down. I forwarded it to my attorney. Then I released the receipts. Not everything. Just what mattered. A timeline, clear, visual. Dates overlaid with filings, travel records, and screenshots he had never bothered to delete because he assumed no one would ever compare them. The point wasn't humiliation. It was coherence. People understood instantly. The response was immediate. The comments shifted. Sympathy evaporated. His language, misunderstanding, complexity, private matter, collapsed under the weight of evidence. Someone coined a phrase that stuck. A simple one. Shareable. It followed every mention of his name. By the end of the week, even the people who'd defended him stopped responding to his messages. The other woman didn't need convincing. She posted once. A single paragraph. Calm. Controlled. I was lied to. I have ended all contact. I am cooperating fully. That word, cooperating, landed like a hammer. Silas called me that night. Not begging. Bargaining. You're destroying my career, he said. You don't have to keep pushing. I'm not pushing, I said. I stopped cushioning the fall. He tried anger. You're enjoying this. I smiled, though he couldn't see it. I'm enjoying accuracy. By Monday, his professional profile was scrubbed, bio removed, committees dissolved, invitations rescinded. He wasn't fired, not yet, but the future he'd been building no longer had a place for him. He tried to post his own statement. Generic, defensive, comments disabled within minutes. That silence was louder than any backlash. At home, Bryn noticed the difference. He doesn't look like himself, she said after a supervised visit. He kept asking me if I was okay, like he was afraid I'd say something. I hugged her. You don't have to protect anyone, I said. Just be honest. She nodded. Relief visible. The final escalation came quietly. His bank called. The second household account, one he hadn't disclosed, was flagged, linked, frozen. His attempt to move funds triggered an alert that crossed into our case file. My attorney smiled when she told me. He thought he was smarter than the system, she said. He isn't. That night, Silas showed up again. Not at the house, at my office. Security called me before he reached the elevator. I met him in the lobby. He looked hollow now, the confidence stripped away. The man who used to manage rooms couldn't manage himself. Please, he said, just tell them to stop. There is no them, I said. There's just the truth catching up. He stared at me, eyes red. You've ruined everything. I tilted my head. No, I clarified it. He sank into a chair like his legs had given out. I don't recognize you, he whispered. That's because you never saw me clearly, I said. You saw what I made possible. I walked away before he could say anything else. By the end of the week, his name no longer trended. It didn't need to. The damage had settled. Permanent. Structural. The man who'd tried to live 2 lives now had none he could sustain. And the worst part, for him, was still coming. The legal process didn't feel dramatic. It felt surgical. Once the hidden account surfaced, everything accelerated. Disclosure orders expanded. Forensic accounting began. The court didn't care about intentions or apologies. It cared about omissions. And Silas had built his second life on omissions. Every deposit he thought was invisible became a line item. Every transfer he assumed was too small to notice became a pattern. 4 years of quiet extraction mapped out in black and white. When the preliminary findings landed, his attorney requested a private conference. Mine declined. From that point on, the tone shifted. Temporary orders became permanent ones. Asset control transferred. The court recognized my inheritance contribution as separate property, not marital. The house, my house, was removed from negotiation. His access to shared funds was reduced to court-approved disbursements. No flexibility, no favors. Silas stopped posturing. He couldn't afford to. His employer terminated him 2 weeks later, not publicly, cleanly. Compliance violations, misrepresentation, reputational risk, the kind of language that follows you. Severance was denied. Benefits ended immediately. That same week, his parents requested a meeting. I agreed. They didn't come to defend him. They came to understand how far the damage extended and whether they were implicated. I laid everything out, calmly, chronologically. No accusations, just facts. His father didn't speak for a long time. We raised him better than this, he said finally. I know, I replied. That's why this worked for so long. They withdrew financial support that afternoon. Closed accounts he had access to, requested keys, changed passwords, drew a boundary they'd never imagined needing. Silas called me that night, voice raw. They cut me off, he said. My own family. They didn't, I said. They stopped enabling you. The custody hearings were brief, not because I pushed, but because he couldn't contest without exposing more than he could afford. Supervised visitation became structured visitation, but nothing unscheduled, nothing informal. Bryn's routine stabilized. Her anxiety faded as predictability replaced chaos. She slept better, ate better, laughed again. That mattered more than anything else. The other woman's collapse was quieter. She vacated the condo within days, listed it immediately. Cooperation turned into compliance once her attorney realized how thoroughly she'd been misled and how costly continued association would be. She never contacted me again. She didn't need to. Silas tried to find footing elsewhere. Short-term rentals, friends' couches, temporary fixes. But without income, without credibility, without a story people believed, doors closed quickly. Even the people who pitied him hesitated to host someone whose presence came with consequences. By month 3, he was living out of a storage unit and an expired gym membership. The court finalized the divorce shortly after. No theatrics, no speeches. When the judge asked if either party had anything to add, Silas looked at me like he was waiting for permission. I didn't give it. Judgment entered, assets divided, custody confirmed, support structured, enforcement automatic. The dismantling was complete. Afterward, his brother reached out once, not to reconcile, to say goodbye. I can't be part of his life anymore, he said. But I wanted you to know, I believe you. That was enough. The final blow came weeks later, unexpectedly. Silas's name appeared on a civil filing unrelated to me. A separate matter. Another party. Another omission. The system had learned his patterns. I read it once. Closed the file. I was done monitoring his downfall. One afternoon, Bryn asked a question she'd been holding for months. "Is Dad okay?" she asked carefully. "He's responsible for himself now," I said. "Just like we are." She nodded, accepted it. That night, as I walked through the house, quiet, steady, whole, I realized something essential. Revenge wasn't the outcome. Freedom was. Silas had asked me to lie so he could keep everything. I told the truth and lost nothing that mattered. He lost everything he built on deception. And this time, there was no one left to clean up after him. The last time I saw Silas, it wasn't dramatic. That surprised me. No crowd, no cameras, no raised voices. Just a neutral office building on a Tuesday afternoon. Beige walls and fluorescent lights that made everyone look tired and honest in the worst way. The custody coordinator had asked if we could both attend to finalize logistics. I agreed because avoidance wasn't power anymore. Clarity was. He was already there when I arrived. Thinner, older. His clothes hung differently now, like they belonged to someone else. He stood when he saw me, unsure whether he was allowed to. "Arden," he said quietly. I nodded, sat down, opened my folder. Pen ready. For a moment, he just stared at me, like he was trying to find the version of me he remembered, the one who explained things gently, the one who waited. "You don't look angry," he said finally. "I'm not," I replied. "I'm finished." That word landed harder than anything else I could have said. He swallowed. "I've been meaning to talk to you, properly." "This is proper," I said. "Say what you came to say." He leaned forward, hands clasped like he was about to pray. "I know I don't deserve forgiveness," he began, "but I need you to understand. I never meant to hurt you." I didn't interrupt. "I got trapped," he continued. "It started small, then it just grew. I kept thinking I could fix it without anyone getting hurt." "You fixed it by lying," I said evenly. "I panicked," he said. "I was afraid of losing everything." I looked at him then. Really looked. "You were afraid of losing comfort," I said. "Not us." His eyes filled. Actual tears this time. Real or rehearsed. I no longer cared. "I lost my job," he said. "My family won't speak to me. I don't even know where I'm going to live next month." I closed my folder. "You didn't come here to talk about Bryn," I said. "You came here to be seen suffering." He flinched. "I just want a chance," he whispered, "to make things right." "You had 4 years of chances," I said. "You used them to build something else." The coordinator cleared her throat gently, reminding us why we were there. We went through schedules, pickup locations, boundaries. Silas nodded at everything like compliance might earn him grace. When it was done, the coordinator excused herself, leaving us alone in the room. This was it. Silas stood slowly. "Can I ask you something?" "You can ask," I said. "I won't promise an answer. Was any of it real?" he asked. "Our life, our marriage." I thought about it, not defensively, honestly. "Yes," I said. "It was real to me." His face crumpled. "And now?" he asked. "Now it's finished," I said, "because it stopped being mutual." He stepped closer, desperation leaking through his restraint. "I still love you," he said. I didn't step back. "I believe you think that," I said. "But love doesn't require duplication." He reached into his pocket and pulled out something small. A key. Old. Worn. "The house," he said. "I found this in my jacket. I wanted to give it back." I looked at it. Didn't take it. "Keep it," I said. "It doesn't open anything anymore." That was when he broke. "I don't know who I am without you," he said, voice cracking. "You were always the one who held everything together." I stood. "That's exactly why this is over," I said. "I was carrying a life you were quietly abandoning." He looked up at me, eyes raw. "So this is it?" "This was it months ago," I said. "You just arrived late." I picked up my bag and moved toward the door. "Arden," he said one last time. Not loud, not demanding, just small. I stopped, turned. "You asked me to lie for you," I said. "That's when you lost me. Everything after that was just paperwork." He nodded slowly, like the truth finally fit. I opened the door. As I walked down the hallway, my steps were steady. No shaking, no second-guessing. The weight I'd been carrying for years wasn't behind me anymore. It was gone. I didn't look back. I didn't need to. Some endings don't need forgiveness. They need distance, and I had finally claimed mine. A year passed without ceremony. No dramatic milestones, no victory lap. Just ordinary days stacking into something solid. The house felt different first. Quieter, but not empty. The air wasn't tense anymore. Doors closed softly instead of carefully. I stopped listening for footsteps that never came. I rearranged furniture because I wanted to, not because I was adapting around someone else's habits. I painted the hallway Bryn had always wanted yellow. She helped. We made a mess. We laughed. That was the first real sign of freedom, laughter that didn't check the room before arriving. Bryn changed too. Slowly, then all at once. Her shoulders relaxed, her grades steadied. She stopped asking if plans might change. She stopped watching faces for mood shifts. She became a child again instead of a small emotional analyst. On weekends, we made pancakes and let them burn. We went to the park without watching the time. We talked about the future like it was something we were allowed to assume. I returned to work on my terms, took on projects I'd shelved for years, said no without explaining myself. My confidence wasn't loud, but it was unshakable. I knew what I could build because I'd already rebuilt myself from something broken. People stopped asking about Silas. At first, they were careful, curious, then indifferent. That's how irrelevance works. It doesn't announce itself. I heard about him occasionally, through distance, through implication. He moved cities, then moved again, took short-term work, lost it, regained nothing that resembled stability. The systems he'd exploited no longer trusted him. The people he'd leaned on no longer answered. He became a footnote. Once, months later, I saw him at a grocery store across town. He didn't see me. He stood in the aisle staring at his phone like it might give him instructions. He looked smaller than I remembered. Not defeated, just unanchored. I didn't feel satisfaction. I felt clarity. That life wasn't mine anymore. The last time Bryn asked about him, it wasn't fearful or hopeful. "Do you think he's lonely?" she asked, thoughtful. "Probably," I said honestly. She nodded. "That's sad." "Yes," I agreed. "But it's not your responsibility." She accepted that answer the way children accept truths when they're finally safe enough to hear them. One evening, after she went to bed, I sat on the porch alone. The neighborhood hummed with ordinary life. Dogs barking, someone grilling, distant music drifting through warm air. I realized something then. I wasn't healed because he'd fallen. I was healed because I'd stopped organizing my life around someone else's instability. Betrayal teaches you that love without accountability isn't intimacy, it's exposure. That silence can be consent if you let it. That loyalty to someone who's lying is a slow erasure of self. I didn't win by punishing him. I won by leaving the version of myself who believed endurance was the same as strength. The truth didn't just free me. It simplified everything. I no longer needed to manage appearances, excuses, or explanations. I didn't need to be reasonable in the face of unreasonable behavior. I didn't need to make space for someone who had quietly made none for me. My life became smaller and stronger. And when I think back to the moment he asked me to lie for him, I understand now why it felt like a line being crossed. It wasn't the lie. It was the assumption that I would disappear to protect him. I didn't. I stayed visible. And that changed everything. Thank you for staying with this story all the way to the end. If it hit something real for you, go ahead and hype that button so this video can reach more people who need it. I'd really love to hear your thoughts, or your own experience, in the comments below. And if you're not subscribed yet, make sure you hit subscribe and the like button so you don't miss the next story. Your support genuinely makes a difference. I'll see you in the next one.